Hi, welcome to this new podcast, the Aristocool. Today we are recording in a private jet studio. How cool is that? And it's going to be quite representative of this podcast because this podcast will be in different cities, different countries, sometimes with friends, sometimes with some experts, and sometimes just by myself, probably talking too much. And so why the podcast is going to be called the Aristocool? Aristocracy as a name can be like misjudged. Sometimes people feel intimidated. Sometimes they feel that it's outdated. Sometimes they are fascinated. It really depends. But most of the time, people, they only just get the cliche of the aristocracy. And the point is going to be to showcase that it's not only Bridgerton and sipping some tea and looking down at the other. The modern aristocrat, I will speak with a she because I'm a she, but like modern aristocrat, she builds, she works, she plans her own flight tickets, and she's traveling around the world and she's building something. And for a while, I did downplay my roots because I was not ashamed, but almost like I had like some friends in school, whatever, people were talking. And so for years, I end up being like saying to my mom, oh, let's not bring my friends to the countryside home. I don't want them to see the grandparents who had like quite an aristocratic house. And I ended up being hiding a part of myself for years and it became exhausting. And so I now decided to not do it anymore and to simply play it with a bit of cool and a bit of drama. So now look at where we are. We are in a jet. We are on the move. And this is how I did live a good part of my life. I've been traveling a lot and not always in private jets. Unfortunately, they spend too much money to fix roofs. And now I'm like, it's something that completely like shaped me. Solo traveling is something that can really make you so different. For giving you a bit of my story, I did started to solo travel when I was 19. I left for New Zealand and then Australia, so literally the other side of the world. And it was like mostly just me. I had like one girlfriend, she was there. But it's like I started to be at the beginning with her and then I was just really on the road with my backpack. And I did like not almost, but good part of New Zealand. And then I did Australia. And Australia, I lived in Sydney. I did all the East Coast. I did all the Middle, West Coast, down, and Tasmania. So I really know well there. And it has been something that really like gave me so much. And for example, it really did help me with some confidence, if I can say, because I used to be terrified to just go to restaurants alone. You're gonna think like, oh, what the people are gonna think about me? Are they gonna think that poor girl, what is she doing there alone? Meanwhile, this is something that is called the spotlight effect. We all think a lot about ourselves and we're gonna think like, oh, all the people are looking at me. Meanwhile, I can assure you, no one is looking at you and the people have the same spotlight effect on themselves. So it's like solo traveling, managing all the things that are not planned, the unexpected, everything is going to give you so much strength and a different way to see the world. And obviously, like solo traveling doesn't mean being alone. You're going to meet way more friends on the road and even more than if you had traveled with some friends, because basically a group of friends is going to be something that is blocking the opportunity to meet other people. Because when you go somewhere and you're going to sit alone, I don't know, in a cafe in Buenos Aires or whatever, you're going to have the opportunity to meet more people than when you are with a group of friends. When you travel with a group of friends, you're just going to end up staying with your group of friends all the trip, which is also really nice, but it's not the same virtues. And so once you are comfortable with yourself, you're going to act differently, you're going to think differently, you're going to move differently, and you're going to also just like simply date differently. Because once you've traveled the world and once you've managed everything for yourself this way, you're not going to freak out over a delayed text that you're waiting from someone. Because many people are like, oh, but how do you do? I would be so afraid to solo travel. I've never done that. You're so brave, courageous, especially as a woman. And So the episode of today, the point is going to be like giving some few insights and some few practical tips that you can take with you for your maybe next solo travel. First advice would be start small. You can just simply go to a place 2 hours from your home. It doesn't need to be in another country. It doesn't need to be in the Himalayas to do 3 months by yourself. It might be a bit intense. So start somewhere close. You're gonna go for a weekend, take a hotel, just spend 48 hours with yourself. And it's like solo travel is like everything. It's like gym or whatever. It's like a muscle. You need to train it. Once you've started to do it, you will take the taste of it. My other advice is going to be get internet immediately. There is now some amazing apps that you can charge that are like one I'm using personally is like called Aristocool. And you can charge some eSIM, you charge them in your country. And then when you land, you already on the tarmac, you will get internet in the new country. And this is going to remove you maybe 70% of your stress because you're going to get maps, you're going to get Uber, you're going to get the opportunity to call your mom if you don't feel well. I don't know. But it's like, it's going to be way easy. And nowadays it's super easy. I do remember that like before, when I was arriving, you needed to go in the airport, find a shop and ask for a proper SIM. They were always scamming you like it was the most expensive SIMs. And I remember because then I was changing countries and I was putting them in the back of the case of the phone. So I had like my Egyptian SIM, my New Zealand SIM, my Australian SIM. And now it's way more easy. Like for $10, you will get internet for your stay. So do that. The advice is going to be to plan your trip in a good way. Like traveling, solo travel doesn't mean being alone. So there is some easy way to plan the opportunity to network there. One thing I often do is like you're going to post on your social media, post on Instagram. Hey, I'm going to Lisbon next week. Do you happen to have good recommendation for restaurants? And do you know any cool people? You're going to see that most of the time, people are super happy to connect you with someone. And that's where something that is called the strength of weak ties. It's from Mark Gronaveter. I hope I say that well. And it basically say that your close friends gives you support, but your acquaintance, your weak ties, are going to be the one that gives you new opportunities because their world is different from yours. And it's simply true. Like maybe you're going to meet in a wedding someone 3 years ago and she's going to say, oh, I know this amazing friend in Lisbon. You should connect. And you're going to end up having the best dinner of your life. Thanks to this girl because she's going to have a different world than yours. So really use that because most of the time people will be super happy to connect you with someone. Then you also have some Facebook groups. I know that I'm French. We have a lot of French group, French in Australia, French in Bali, French whatever, but in function of your community or just in function of simply, like you put digital nomads, I don't know, in Bali, in Dubai, whatever, you will find some groups and you will have the opportunity to connect also with some amazing people. As advice number 4, I'm going to go a bit on the side of the safety. Like do not go out alone at night, especially as a woman in a country where you don't know the rules. It can seem a bit conservative, but at least don't do it the first days. Take the pulse of a city, understand where it's safe to go and everything. It's like always better to be with someone. Well, as I said, with all those groups, you can find someone to go out with at night, or you can find some tour organized. There is many ways to be a bit safe on this point. In like every cities, every countries, beside maybe the UAE, like a bit of like simply like the fact that like at night the ecosystem is going to change for sure. It's like in many countries. So I would say don't go out at night alone, at least at the beginning. So it's the same, like not only at night, but like you need to take some research about the neighborhood in the different places. It's like there is some cities where from one neighborhood to another one, it's going to be super dangerous to another one not. So please do some research, use Google, ChatGPT. You can cross all the information. It's quite easy right now. Something else that you can easily do is like share your location if needed. Like my best friend, she has my location and I have hers. It's always good to have someone that's know mostly where you are if anything would to happen or just to be safe. Just for a quick story, you see like the going at night alone. I ended up like I was in Australia and I had this flight that was in the middle of the night. So I arrived in the hostel because I was not traveling in private jet. I was backpacking hostel and everything. And I arrived so at 8 a.m., something like this in the new hostel. It was in the middle of the Australia in the cities where they mine opal. So it's like quite desertic cities, like not that many people. So I went to bed and I slept at 8 a.m. because I had to wake up in the middle of the night. And I woke up at like 7 or 8 p.m. And obviously I was starving. Same. It was like not having the opportunity to have some deliveries or this kind of things. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to walk and go find some food. And I ended up walking first of all, from the hostel, I saw there is like this big metal thing that was closing the hostel at night. I was like, that's weird. I was like, okay. And then I go to the supermarket, find everything. And then I went out and you see there was like, because in Australia, in those cities, they have some issue with some Aboriginal that are drinking. And in the stores, you're going to see some things written, don't give alcohol to them. And they end up even being kicked out of their own tribes, like, because I think it's not allowed for them. And I was walking and I was like, 19 by the time, and end up, I don't know how she appears because she didn't walk. She really kind of appeared from nowhere. There was like this old lady, Aboriginal, and a bit like witchy vibe. And she was like, hi, go buy me some alcohol. And I was like, oh, what do I say? I was like, okay, first thing in my mind, I was like, oh, no, I'm sorry. I would have loved to, but I'm underage. And she looked at me. She's like, you're not. I was like, no, I am. Like, I'm 17. I'm sorry. I cannot buy your alcohol. And I started to freak out. I had my heart racing and I was like walking and I was like, okay, walk. Especially on the side, there was also some men. I don't know if it was maybe her sons or something like this, but I was like, oh my God, in what I am. And everything was closed. No shop open. Even the supermarket was kind of closing. So I was like, okay, walk back. And it was like a 20-minute walk. And I walk and then I don't know how she did that again. She appeared again in front of me and she was like, go buy me some alcohol. And I was like, no, I'm sorry, I told you. But I freak out because I don't know how she did that, like by a little street, or she cut a corner because she obviously didn't miraculously appeared. But I really got like super, super scared. Obviously like lucky, nothing bad happened. But you see, this is one of the examples that's don't go alone. I should have said to someone in the hostel, hey, anyone wants to go to grocery? Or organize myself to have food when I arrived at the hostel, because this kind of situation could have been more bad than it has been. Of course, in the same topic, for when you rent a place, if it's an Airbnb, whatever, or maybe a hotel, I do like to take Airbnbs in the cities because it gives me the real feeling to be a citizen of the city, even if you don't live in the place. If you go 10, 15 days in a city, in a hotel, you will still have this sensation to be like a tourist. You know, if you live 10 days, 15 days in a city, having a flat, I don't know. For me, it is a different feeling. When I go 2-3 days, obviously I take a hotel, it's easier. But like for more than 1 week, I like to be in a flat. Also, I do like to cook my food by moment and not having to be 3 times a day at the restaurant. Not doing all this gym for that. And so when you take those places, like, please look at also every information of the neighborhood. Because obviously sometimes there is some really nice places and you look and like, we were like, wow, ended up being in an industrial zone, 30 minutes away from any metro, bus, subway, in a not really safe area. So the best is going to be like to look at the place. I know not on Airbnb, they don't showcase the exact localization, but you can still see what are the streets around. Look if there is some shops, like to not end up in the middle of nowhere. But my other advice that is a bit in contradiction, but it's like gonna be, you do have to plan a minimum, but please let some space for randomness, because this is what's gonna give you the best memories for your trip. If you like have your breakfast, lunch plan, then this museum, then this afternoon, then the dinner, you're not gonna have the opportunity for the universe to bring you something like that is gonna be cool, something not expected, and those are the best part of your trips. Like, you do it in a safe way, but this is always the best. So have the city, have few things you want to see, but don't be crazy maniac about organization. Let the opportunity to be 2 days more in the city, because sometimes you're going to fall in love with a place and an energy. And it would be too bad for you to be like, no, okay, I've already booked everything, paid everything, I have to move, and being like on a tour like a rock star. So you should have the opportunity to enjoy, to live a bit of freedom in your schedule when you're solo traveling. So my last advice for today is going to be about finances. I would recommend you to have a card that is like no transaction fee and no currency exchange fee, because this is something that can ruin your trip. I do remember my first solo traveling in New Zealand. Because the bank said, yeah, your card is international. But yes, it was international, but it was with some fee. So each transaction I was doing, I had like mostly €1 by transaction on top of it. So it's like €1 is like $1 or whatever. And it's like I ended up at the end of the month, because I was paying, I don't know, coffee, whatever, everything with the card. And so I ended up, I think, with like $300 or $400 of transaction fee. And this is quite annoying, especially when you're solo traveling. Sometimes you can be on a budget. So this is like something you should really look into it before going to a country. And also having a bit of cash is a good thing, because you're going to be happy to be able to carry a bit of cash. In some places, they're not going to be card friendly. You never know. So solo traveling, always having a bit of cash. Always also let a bit of cash in your hotel. In case of anything, your wallet is stolen, you lose something, have the minimum to be able to fall back on your feet. Yeah, I hope you did enjoy this episode of today. The Aristocool is going to be about culture. It's going to be about movement. It's going to be about any topics that are speaking to me and can speak to you, from, I don't know, biohacking to astrology to whatever I can bring from the people I'm going to meet around the world. And I hope you did enjoy this flight. If you have any friends that are hesitating to go on a solo travel, send them this episode. And I hope it will give you the occasion to buy your ticket and do this solo travel.